So tell me if you've heard this one before. I want to do baby-led weaning, but I'm worried that my baby won't be getting enough if they feed themselves. Hi, I'm Katie Ferraro, dietitian and mom of 7, and I've got a ton to say about this idea that babies can't get enough from real food. Okay, let's back it up a few millennia. Okay, what do you think cave mama fed to cave baby before there was a whole aisle of baby food pouches at the store for you to buy? Like, parents have always fed modified versions of the same foods that they feed their babies, and babies have always learned to eat enough to meet their nutrition needs. So let's start with the low-hanging fruit, iron. And speaking of fruit, fruit doesn't have any iron. Neither do vegetables or dairy foods. And yeah, iron is important for your baby, particularly around the 6-month mark, because there's a big chunk of iron that your baby got from mom at the tail end of pregnancy. But that starts to dissipate around the 6-month mark. And from 0 to 6 months, your baby's covered by the iron in breast milk and or formula. But because those iron stores start to dip around 6 months, and this timeline's no coincidence, all right? That 6-month mark, that's exactly when your baby is about to make the transition to solid foods. So we want to include iron foods in the weaning diet. And you do not have to rely on iron-fortified white rice cereal for your baby's iron, because there are lots of foods that you can make safe for babies to eat that naturally have iron. As a dietitian who takes a food-first approach to starting solid foods, I'm going to walk you through some iron-containing foods. Now, there are 2 categories of foods that contain iron. For animal foods, that's foods like meat and chicken and beef and pork and lamb and egg yolks also have iron. And for plant foods, tofu, super easy food for babies to pick up and self-feed. Not only are you getting iron, but when you're offering tofu, because it's made from soy, that's an allergenic food that we want your baby to be eating early and often, so you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. But back to the rice cereal. There's a pediatrician named Dr. Greene who has what he calls the white out movement to help pediatricians and parents stop recommending and offering white rice cereal as an ideal first food. Here's a quick take on some of the drawbacks of white rice cereal and why we should really be exploring more naturally occurring sources of iron for our infants.
Another reason to not do white rice cereal is that another reason we do feed baby food is to train and cultivate a microbiome. These organisms that are in our gut that we live with and become great friends to our health and provide many things. The microbiome is set early in life. It can change over time, but there's this anchor point that's set in the first year or 2. And it happens largely by what kids eat and what they're exposed to. But the processed white flours cultivate the wrong microbiome. That's not going to be helping you in the long run. Much better to have fiber-rich foods, prebiotic-rich foods. Another reason not to do white rice cereal, and this one's been in the news recently, is that white rice is one of the big sources of arsenic in kids' diet. For better or worse, rice really pulls up nutrients, whatever is in the soil. And so if rice is grown in soil that has arsenic in it, it can easily end up in the processed white rice cereal. And the AAP and the FDA have encouraged us to minimize rice in babies.
If we look at the research about baby-led weaning and iron, here, let's just read this one together. BLW can be an alternative complementary feeding type without increasing the risk of iron deficiency, choking, or growth impairment. A baby-led approach to complementary feeding does not appear to increase the risk of iron deficiency in infants when their parents are given advice to offer high iron foods with each meal. Okay, what about calories, or as a dietitian, I prefer to call it energy? The energy from the foods and the drink that your baby is eating and drinking fuels your baby's body. But so many parents worry that their baby isn't going to get enough because they're hardly eating anything early on in baby-led weaning. But you guys, that is how it's supposed to work. Okay, your baby doesn't just magically wake up on their 6-month birthday and know how to eat solid foods, right? It takes time, and your baby needs a lot of practice to get proficient. And that's what's good about this whole baby-led weaning thing, was that for infant milk, okay, breast milk and or formula, that's going to remain your baby's primary source of nutrition even as your baby's making this transition to solid foods. Let's think about the weaning period from 6 to 12 months. It's kind of the pre-season or practice period for learning how to eat. My husband Charlie absolutely hates when I make sports references, but this one works. Hear me out. Okay, you know how if you buy season tickets for your favorite team, then they always make you buy the preseason games too? And the preseason games are ugly, right? Nobody really wants to watch them, but that's really what the weaning period is for your baby. It's practice season. It's time to practice getting good at learning how to eat something like solid foods. That weaning period occurs from 6 to 12 months of age, because by age 12 months, we really want your baby to be getting most of their nutrition from food and just a little bit from milk. But babies don't wake up on their first birthday and magically know how to do that. They need practice. They need the preseason. That's what the weaning period is. So remember, practice makes progress. And even if you feel like your baby's not eating anything, with more practice, with more food, they'll get better at eating. They'll start eating more. They'll start drinking less infant milk. And boom, that is weaning in action. Here is Gill Rapley. She's the founding philosopher of the baby-led weaning movement. She's the co-author of the original baby-led weaning book, and she's explaining a bit more about the term weaning and how that term is used by the British and why it differs a little bit from how we use the term here in the United States.
Okay, let's just wait a second before I give you my definition. The two that we hear about most often would be the cessation of breastfeeding, and that would be common, I think, in the USA. And if I'm right, it not only means the stopping of breastfeeding in favor of sort of solid foods, but even perhaps the stopping of breastfeeding in favor of formula feeding right at the beginning. You know, moms will say they've weaned their baby from the breast and they've moved to formula way before we're really talking about the possibility of solids. In the UK, it tends to mean the introduction of solid foods. And really, irrespective of whether the baby's breastfed or formula fed at that point, it's all around solid foods. And I looked in a few texts when I was doing my research and my studies for the books I've written and so on, and found that actually the word means to gradually acclimatize a baby to something new, or to get him off something that he's used to. So it's number one, it's a gradual process. It's not something that happens on one day. And the process of weaning from the breast, or I prefer to think of it as from infant milk, whether that be breast milk or formula, should be a gradual one.
When it comes to baby-led weaning, if you're worried about inadequate energy or calorie intake, here's a study where researchers looked at energy or calorie intake from baby-led weaning babies, and they compared that to traditional spoon feeding. And they found that infants following BLW had similar energy intakes to those following traditional spoon feeding, and they were eating family meals more regularly. So if you're getting pressure to start solid foods early, sometimes we hear this to help a small baby with catch-up growth, I want you to know that that is a very inappropriate recommendation. We cannot pump a baby full of food and expect them to gain weight when they don't yet know how to eat those foods safely. Here's internationally renowned PhD dietitian Rosan Meyer talking about how starting solid foods early does not help babies with catch-up weight, and then what we should be doing instead.
Actually, your catch-up growth is not going to occur with solids. In fact, solids, especially the solids when you start, are going to displace that important breastfeeding. So if we just kind of think about the nutritional content of breast milk, or we can even talk about formula, but breast milk is around 70 kilocalories per 100 milliliters. When we start with fruit and vegetables, they are not energy dense. They don't have that energy density in terms of protein. So actually, by starting solids early, what is going to happen, you're going to actually reduce the amount of volume capacity that the child has for the energy dense the breast milk or for the formula. And you are much better in terms of the oral motor skills, in terms of the capacity to even manage them. But from a nutrient perspective, You do not do catch-up growth on just fruit and vegetables. I'm sorry, that doesn't occur. So it's really, really important that that message gets across, that you don't start early because you want, for whatever reason, some kind of catch-up growth.
So your baby is not going to develop iron deficiency anemia. They're not going to fall off the growth curve if you decide to do baby-led weaning. These might be fears of yours, but they do not bear out in the research or the published literature. And for those of you who are research nerds, and if you want to learn more, there's a wonderful review article written by Amy Brown. She's a PhD researcher out of Swansea University in the United Kingdom. And here she is talking a little bit about the research behind baby-led weaning.
We have collated research, and we've done research ourselves that says, no, it's not a choking risk. Done safely. You know, there are some foods that you wouldn't give a baby or a child just in general anyway, but just as a general means of feeding your baby, no, babies are perfectly equipped to eat whole foods from the start of weaning. It looks at eating behaviours. So eating behaviours aren't what we eat, but how we eat. So we all know people and children who are fussy eaters. So they'll only eat a limited amount of things. So fussy eaters and fussy eating, it's something we try to discourage, because if you have a limited intake of different foods, you're going to have a limited nutrient intake. And we've shown that babies who are baby-led weaned are less likely to be fussy eaters, and that's really consistent. Basically, I think every single study that has looked at eating behaviours and weaning has shown that those baby-led weaned babies are the adventurous, will try anything babies. We've also looked at a behaviour called satiety responsiveness, which simple terms means, do you stop eating when you're full? You know, even if it's your favourite meal and you've got halfway through your plate and you're full, are you able to say no thanks? So you listen to those internal cues of hunger and satiety and eat according to those. And we've shown in quite a few studies that babies who are baby-led weaned are better in control of their appetite. They recognise that they're full a lot more easily, because probably they're in charge of what they're eating. So when they're picking it up and they're in control and it's taking a little bit longer, then that just helps support the development of that behaviour. There are then several studies now that have looked at weight. It gets a little bit tricky here because it's really difficult to look at weight and diet in babies, because there are so many different factors that affect it. So genetics and milk feeding and other things that are going on in the environment. And we found that it was the spoon-fed, bottle-fed babies who were the heaviest at 12 months. They weren't necessarily classed as overweight, but they were going in that direction. They were on that trajectory, because obviously it takes a little bit of time to become overweight. It's that little, those few extra calories over time eventually leads to overweight, but these babies were the heaviest. And what we think is going on is that when babies are baby-led weaned, they have opportunity to pick the food up, eat the food, eat slowly, to stop eating when they're full. So they've got that element of control over their intake of food. And the same happens to a larger extent when babies are breastfed, because you can't see how much milk they're drinking, that you just have to trust that they've had enough. You can't get them to finish the breast by tapping on the top of it, or you can't see what's in the breast and encourage them to drink more. So the breastfed babies have the control. So when you then take those two behaviours together, as long as they have some element of control of their intake, it seems to be really positive in terms of their weight outcomes. When they don't have control in terms of their weaning or their milk, then that's where these babies really seem to be gaining weight.
I'm going to link to Amy Brown's review article called Baby-Led Weaning, the Evidence to Date, below this video, which you might be interested in reading more about. And another good read is Amy's book. It's called Why Starting Solids Matters. This summarizes all of the existing BLW research in a really easy to read format. It's chock full of research findings, and she refutes a lot of these other concerns about iron and growth faltering and nutrition with all the references that you need. And if you do not have time to read or watch to learn more about baby-led weaning, I also interviewed Amy Brown for my Baby-Led Weaning Made Easy podcast. There's a whole episode called The Evidence Behind Baby-Led Weaning with Amy Brown, PhD. Go to blwpodcast.com. I'm going to link up all of these resources for you below this video, and make sure that you like and follow for more info about giving your baby a safe start to solid foods using baby-led weaning. Happy feeding.